But I hope beyond anything that there is a moment where she begins to see Serra as a person and then as a daughter, like a surrogate daughter. I really, really hope that's the direction it goes, but I don't know. So we will find out. Anyway, unpause. Gatesfield Memorial Hospital. Oh, thank you. You're a lifesaver. And the next time that Bridezilla texts you, just turn your phone off. Chatty guy must have been due to go on a break. When he tried and failed to get the witness's medical record, his datapad had the name blacked out. But I did see that they have Caduceus Executive 3, more expensive than David's, which means they must most likely... How did you do that? Oh, look at her little face! You need to hold the button to get the doors to close faster. Mashing does nothing. That is not what I meant. There were many others who arrived before us. How did you get us down here so quickly? Well, I didn't do anything. It was that nurse who escorted us. Yes, but you managed to get a stranger like him to help you with so few words, so little information. I don't think you even gave him your name. Haven't you heard of the Golden Rule? Of course I have. Treat others how you would wish to be treated. Wrong. Or treat others how they would want to be treated. He wanted someone that he could vent to, he wanted someone to pay attention to him, and he wanted to feel appreciated. Which meant he'd be eager to help, given the chance. Even just reading someone's mood is quite difficult. How can you know how another person wants to be treated? There are no mind readers. No one can ever know anything about what anyone else is thinking. Maybe not even themselves. Doesn't matter if you're their parent, your twin, your lover, it'll always be a gamble. That is not a very comforting sentiment. Well, I think it's fun. Only because you're good at it. How did you get good at it? Same as anything. Observation and practice. You must have been observing and practicing for a very long time then. And, sorry, pause. There was another moment where she was just thinking to herself and she almost forgot Serra was there. And she's done that a couple of times where she's just been talking, thinking to herself, zoning out, and it's just like, whoa, sorry, what? And it's just worth noting. So we proceed down the hall, bear left, look for the fourth door. I'm going to open the one that says morgue on it. That is quite a look. Really creepy centipede. Oh, hey! Come on in, don't stand out there in the... cold wouldn't be accurate. Sorry about the chill in here, but I run a little hot. And you can see my roommates never complain. Yumi Sato, medical examiner. Dr. Sato, just the lady I wanted to see. Though I didn't expect that I'd get to. The fact that they've assigned a medical examiner and not some ad or junior means... Oh, you could just call me Yumi and you're... Morgan. I represent the deceased. The deceased? Oh, the deceased. Asher D. Wait, really? That's, weird. I thought this time slot was scheduled for a group of noble PR people who... I know, weird, right? Well, what the hell do I know? I was getting tired of hosting Megs anyway. Gotta finish typing up this report before we talk shop. But in the meantime, feel free to make yourself at home. This is a really weird looking morgue. I don't know what that stuff flying off. I guess it's supposed to be like vapor. Yeah, like water vapor. The show is really cold. What's this? The hospital's getting renamed? No, guess some other hospital got snapped up. Ikiria family. Ribbon cutting ceremony. Recognition of the family's generous donations over the last several years. Latest in a string of philanthropic efforts to result in a name change after they paid for the renovations of the orchestra hall and retrofitting of the Scout Arena. They were better known for drawing blood than donating it. They had a fearsome reputation for cutthroat business and in involvement with organised crime. Subsequent sale, the Icaria have moved out of the business world and into the upper echelons of society. The neobility is a fantastic term. Newly minted aristocrats. Those who'd label her family House Icaria. She had to say, in this country anyone can make a name for themselves so long as they're willing to put in the work. Mock new money all you want, but the truth is success is all about reinventing yourself. So yes, basically form a mob. Or Yakuza perhaps, with a name like Icaria? The Icaria, because they weren't always in the same line of work. Now they're plastering their name wherever to get themselves a new image. All the neobility are eager to prop up their image wherever they can. But that must go double for the Icarias, assuming the truth about their criminal past is anywhere close to the rumours. That's a lot of screens. There's got to be diminishing returns on productivity. Why do you have so many monitors, Mum? You can't just ask someone that. Good question! Each quarter when they do inventory and budgeting, they ask me if I need anything, and I never do, so I submit a blank form. But I guess a while back there was a +1 on a spreadsheet somewhere, and no one's ever corrected it, and so, boom! I get 4 new monitors every year. Do you run out of things to use them for? Sometimes, but this year I started running 2 dramas at once when I'm doing rote work, which helps. Watching 2 television shows at the same time helps you do rote work. Helps me use up the screens. I see. Are these all dead bodies? One would hope so. I only meant that I'm surprised to see them stored here. It suggests a backlog, which suggests a higher murder rate than the public data would lead one to expect. Do you only examine bodies for the police, Doctor? Oh, I wish. Nah, most of the job involves confirming COD on natural deaths or insurance adjustments. Insurers want to blame the mod for failing, mod makers want to blame the stiff for not exercising enough. Family says the company insurance plan would pay for mods, but not a gym membership. Yeah, that whole wall there is suspected defective liver mods, suspected leaking internal bio batteries, suspected CCIC, climate change induced complications. You can prove that climate change contributed to an otherwise natural death? Very, very rarely. If it can be proved, what does that mean for the family of the deceased? Plus or minus 14% on the life insurance payout? Oh. I mean, it's most of what I do and I don't dislike my job, it's just so much of what I do just boils down to telling a bunch of cheapskates how to split the dead man's bill. It's enough to make homicide feel like a breath of fresh air. She finishing up over there? Right, okay, what's up? Thanks for your time, Dr. Sato. My first question would be... what was the cause of death? Oh wow, hi there, cute android. Didn't even realise it was... they did talk, didn't they? Really cute. The skin is... that's remarkable. Even just looking close, you can tell they really are warm. No, she's embarrassed. Or flattered? Still not quite human body temperature, but they've come a long way. The early gens all looked flush, felt like they were always running a fever, and they ran like it too. Even 2 years ago, the average warm android only lasted... sorry, but the circumstances surrounding this particular case call for expediency. Right. So what can I tell you? Cause of death or tox screen? Were you able to determine the cause of death? Well, cause of death, sure, we got that much figured out at least. Why doesn't that sound particularly reassuring? Dr. Asher died of respiratory failure. Not enough oxygen in the blood, not enough blood going to the brain. Root cause being widespread depression of the central nervous system. What would the symptoms be? What would it have looked like? Lightheadedness followed by dizziness. Then headaches, slurred speech, exhaustion, loss of consciousness, and finally respiratory arrest. Report shows that the EMTs tried intubation, then resuscitation through electrical stimulation, repeatedly. By the time he got to the emergency room, they were desperate enough to attempt direct artificial blood oxygenation, but it was too late. And you're certain of all this? Well, most of it, sweetie. Most of it? Yeah, it's turned into quite the puzzle, and I'm used to having more pieces to start with. I was surprised a man as rich and famous as him didn't have some kind of biomes, but his files show he wasn't a viable candidate for modding. Yeah, that's right. Without that kind of first-hand tech, we don't have nearly as much data as we'd like. But he was extensively monitored from the moment the EMTs arrived. We're very certain about our conclusion. No. Did you find anything else unusual about his body in your examination? Cuts or bruises? No injection sites. Nothing in any cavities. Nothing at all, huh? Tox screen. The police mentioned a tox screen. Yeah, that's the thing. They ran a tox screen when he first arrived, typical diagnostic intake procedure. Based on the emergency call, they figured he must have overdosed on something, but the tox screen gave them nothing. After he died, we performed the broadest screenings possible, nothing. So you were forced to conclude that this was a natural death? I didn't give up that easy. I took blood samples, compared their makeup with what was on record in his previous medical history, and I managed to isolate a single non-naturally occurring chemical compound that wasn't there before. What was it? Some exotic toxin from a different hemisphere? I wish. I ran it through every available database we have access to, and even a few I only sort of have access to through some friends. Not only does it not match any known poison, it doesn't even match the chemical makeup of any registered compound. So a designer drug, huh? That seems to be the best explanation. What the hell did you do, David? You said it doesn't match any registered compound. What about compounds that aren't registered? Those friends of yours, private sector folks? Yeah, and pharmaceuticals. If one of them patented a new compound, a new drug, what would keep its formula from going on? In the private sector, intellectual privacy is the norm, so you're expected to protect your research aggressively. Patent first, find a use later? Yeah, patent would have to at least describe your compound in brief, but depending on what country you file in. I've heard it might be considered prudent to keep the actual chemical makeup off the record. Smart, using international IP law as your own personal minefield. How so? Whenever you're ahead, patent as much as you can, as fast as you can, then bury the formulae so no one knows where it's safe to walk. Great analogy. Anyone small and ambitious comes along, finds a new drug they're excited about, you flip up your card, let them know you came up with the idea years ago. And that'll give them death by 1,000 court dates if they so much as blink. Wouldn't work on anyone your size or bigger, they can punch back, but for the rest of the field... Wow, you corporate lawyers are scary. I'm not a corporate lawyer. So you came up with that strategy just now? This is, again, she's slipping, she's showing off, talking to herself, and revealing just how quick she is. So it's possible that this poison is actually a known substance, something the hospital could have easily identified, if it wasn't considered a trade secret. Yeah, unfortunately that is a possibility. Still, just because a drug is new, that doesn't mean it's original. Does the effect that this compound had remind you of any other drug? Maybe one that's prescription only or a controlled substance? One you might know by another name but with a patented structure? Sorry, sweetheart, it's a general depressant. There are a lot of drugs that have that effect on the body, and they all come in all shapes and sizes from all kinds of places. If the effect was unremarkable, what about its strength? Could you estimate how much of this stuff he had in his body, all told? Not precisely, no, not without detailed knowledge on its half-life, but I'd guess it must have been about 20 milligrams? Is 20 milligrams a lot? Not for medicines, this wasn't just an overdose of something relatively harmless then. Almost like a sprinkling of salt! No, not if 20 mil was enough to crash his entire nervous system. Thank you, Yumi. Of course, so... You ready to view the body? Quick check on Sato. Medical examiner, accessories, reality TVs, dislikes social media, dress codes, hates to throw out old clothes, my weekly meal prep. She is a really interesting design. It doesn't work for me personally, but I see why other people would really love it. Lost consciousness at 8:03. 18, nope, 20 milligrams present. What is talk screen? Send attending physician back to med school. Send apologies. Weird. New ability, new money. That was sort of fairly self-explanatory. Biome monitor. Biome. Monitors vital signs and stuff. So it's really interesting. That's like a really cool kind of mod that just sort of makes sense and like wouldn't be too intrusive. We could skip it if you want. I know most people get squeamish around corpses. Yeah, that shouldn't be a problem. Again, these are such weird things with the script. It's such an odd design choice that I don't understand yet. I think I mentioned before I'd understand if it was just Morgan, but Serra had one as well. Okay then, let's get started. Alright, I'll just step out for a moment to give you some privacy. Yes please, thank you. The last time we talked was on a Sunday. You were complaining, I remember that. It's the principle of the matter. Right, you'd ordered this cheap piece of shit sculpture or something by mistake, and it came damaged and you wanted to send it back for a refund. I gently reminded you how, with your salary, it was literally not worth your time, and I kindly offered to throw it out for you, since you're having so much trouble letting it go. You're only offering because you want to see how loud it sounds shattering at the bottom of my trash can. I denied it, even though you were right and it was obvious. Should have let you have that one. I thought that he would look different. So adorable, Serra, that like, all of this. But he looks exactly the same as I remember. His skin is pale and he's very still. But his face is the same, his hair, his hands. You're expecting something more drastic? The last time I saw him, he was alive. He smiled, and he told me he would see me soon. And now he is dead. Something is gone, and I can't find the difference. Aww. I'm trying to look harder, but I think I might just not be capable of it. And I wonder why. Why was I created to not be capable? Oh. Could be an issue of skill. Or maybe it's not something that can be seen no matter how hard you look. But it's there, I guarantee it. I've seen the transition enough times to know, to be sure that between life and death the distinction has significance. To the dead, at the very least. You're going to smoke here, now? I'll pay the fine. That's not the issue. Were you expecting me to fall to pieces? Real boys grieve in all kinds of ways, Pinocchio. And some don't grieve at all, it seems. I'm a cold woman, sorry to disappoint. The hell? Why the hell won't this thing light? Adone, you have your cigarette backwards. See, Serra has a light. It's so bizarre that Serra has a script line. It doesn't make sense to me. But at least that shows that Morgan is affected. That's the significance. I know that's they highlight these lines because they're significant. And it shows that Morgan is very affected by this, even if she's playing it off. Which goes to my theory that she isn't actually a psychopath. I just don't get the scripts. It's such an odd thing. It doesn't seem to fit in my head yet, because Serra gets them too. If it was just Morgan, it would be, it's because everything she's doing is an act. But if Serra's doing it, Serra is one of the most, not generic, what's the other term? Genuine characters in this. Alright, that's back into cold storage for him, so need anything else? Can you send me the chemical makeup of that compound you isolated? Sure, for what it's worth. Let me just... It's got carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, hydrogen with hexagonal structures. So it's organic? There's a number of metallic elements too. And if you had to speculate on its intended use based on what you know of its structure? Well, it certainly acted like a depressant, binding to receptor pathways and affecting the balance of neurotransmitter reuptake. Depressants are pretty rare in the designer drug scene. True, people are always looking for a higher high or a crazier trip, but a more powerful depressant will just make you fall asleep. Not much need to hit up the grey market for that kind of experience. No, there's not. I see. Thanks again. You've been extremely helpful during a very difficult time. Hey, anything you need, give me a ring. That's very Rockford's orders got me on call, so I'm already getting overtime for the whole weekend. Glad to hear it. Goodbye, Yumi. And goodbye to you, Greenie. My name is Serra. Nice to meet you, Serra. There, she treats Serra like a person. Like, immediately upon meeting her, there was a little bit of, oh, this is a very advanced android. And then it's just treated her like a person. And that is something Morgan still isn't doing yet. Up on-ramps and down off-ramps, above skywalks and under tram lines. The buildings get progressively more polished as we head into the most economically developed part of the city. Corporate territory, national headquarters for the likes of Howe Industries, Lockcoon, Tethys, Neath, each of them sheltering their own micro-city of employee accommodations beneath their skyscraper shadows. Whale Fall, the entirety of the ocean floor coming together to feast and grow and live. Live off the fetid, rotting fat of the leviathans that shallow generations of people by the mouthful. Weight is commonly listed, and my weight is... Do I really have to disclose that? Noble lays claim to one of the largest shadows in the city, a towering nerve centre for the whole nation's android industry. It's meant to be intimidating, I'm sure, but today I'm glad that Noble keeps such a sizable physical presence here. I need answers about David and his work on Serra. Answers I'd never get browsing the company website or speaking to a representative. Synopsis? Relationships? There are typically trivia sections as well. Should I start there? Noble will have their guard up, of course, but even that will tell me something. Where they let me walk, who they let me talk to. It's going to continue ignoring Serra while she's working. History? Their efforts at performative transparency and clumsy obfuscation will... How did you know my father? Huh? What? I'm sorry, did I interrupt your brooding? No. What did you ask? My father. I know you were his friend. But what was your relationship like? She just thought of that. Can't you just scroll through our socials? Father avoided social media, and your online presence is not significant. You're saying I don't have enough followers? Essentially. We went to the same college. You studied programming? No, I studied all kinds of things as an undergrad, but not technology. Is that a good way to prepare for law school? I wasn't preparing for law school. Or anything else, really. David, though, he had talent and he knew he wanted to do something with it. He studied programming, robotics, discrete maths, cybernetics. What classes did you share, then? Business ethics. I was the second best student in the class, and he was the first? He was the one who asked the most questions. Not sure about his actual ranking. He found the course challenging, and I clearly didn't, despite being younger. Guess he felt burned. He'd come up to me after class to argue, and sometimes to ask for help. Father always talked about socializing like it was a chore. It was kind of you to give him a chance. What, like I was some kind of social butterfly, the belle of the ball? You weren't? One Sunday night he knocked on my door all panicked, saying he was in a bad shape for this tech course. There was a midterm or something the next day. I couldn't make heads or tails of the material, but I did my best to at least quiz him. He wasn't satisfied though, wanted to cram the rest of the night. Father had to cram for an undergraduate midterm? Did I say something scandalous? He's been called the founder of modern programming. Yeah, well, even founder types can have poor time management when they're 21. He was already fried by that point, wasn't hard to tell what he was really asking for. so I went and stole a study aid for him. You stole a controlled substance just to help him with studying? Pfft, no, that'd be insane. No, I just pocketed some breath mints from the common room. Told him to pinch his nose and swallow fast cause the taste is so strong. You gave him a placebo? He already knew the content as good as he ever would. What he needed was to sleep. He could barely keep his eyes open by the time I got back from my daring heist. Didn't take much convincing for him to rest his eyes just until it kicked in. And the test? B+, I think. I'm surprised that Father stayed close with you after that. You stole and lied to him. I stole and lied for him. And David understood that. He was good at understanding things without me having to spell them out. But I guess that's not the kind of thing that gets passed down through programming. Anyway, we kept in touch after that. First year of grad school, he published this paper, The Turing Solution, a framework for programming adaptive linguistic heuristics. One of his advisors came up with that title. David thought it was way too cocky, but it still hasn't failed any known Turing test in the years since. Don't act like you're the one who deserves credit for it. He called me one weekend asking for advice on how to handle the attention. Job offers, interviews, apprenticeships, invitations to immigrate. What did you tell him? I don't remember telling him anything, actually. A lot of our conversations went like that. He would talk about whatever personal or professional problem was stuck in his head that day, and I would nod until he wore himself out. And at the end of the conversation, he'd thank me, even though I hadn't offered a single word of advice. He took Noble's offer and they took over his education, paid him to work on his masters during the day and attend corporate training at night. And whatever else Noble may be, they were smart enough to just start listening to him early. You're referring to his one-point doctrine. Quality over quantity. Simple and elegant, just like his code. Pause. One-point doctrine, quality over quantity. Serra. She is his quality over quantity. Like, Morgan made a reference before when she found Serra as like, you chuck in everything and then they only last a few years. I think Serra is built to outlast everything. Because David maybe... Right. Alright. Quick theory time, because I'm almost at the end of this recording now, so quick theory. I'm fairly sure that David knew he was going to die. Or at least he knew something would happen. Because he spoke to Jess, put Serra somewhere safe, spoke to Jess, and then set everything up for Morgan to take her off his hands, basically. And I think he knew that there was something to do with the warm androids that was going to get him in trouble. So I don't think anyone found out about Serra, because I think if they did, Morgan wouldn't be able to walk around so freely. I mean, we're going to be going to... I think we're on the way to Noble now, so we're going to find out if anyone there recognises her. Morgan said that she thinks they will. I'm not so certain. I reckon it is either... One is that David knew there was a problem with the warm androids, and either he found out about it and was going to go public and therefore was killed, or he caused it and was killed. But it mentioned that whoever the guest was had a higher executive clearance, implying it was like someone even higher in the corporation than him. The idea that it was... because I theorized that maybe it was like a kiss or something that passed it. If it was the salt, it wouldn't be the kiss. And that further backs up that it was a colleague and not the partner. Because they mentioned that David was seeing... was it an artist or a musician? And that's who Morgan got Fran to track down. But if it was the musician, there's no way like a local musician would be higher executive insurance than David at Noble, you know? So it would have to be a colleague, further reinforcing that he was killed because of something to do with work, which is, again, reinforced by the emails and being about the warm androids. So if it wasn't about Serra, maybe somebody found out that he was doing something, but not what? Some sort of secret about the warm androids? I don't know. There's not enough to go on, really. But, I mean, I say not enough to go on. I'm fairly sure that they previously visited, they poisoned the salt, David used the salt, and then when they visited again and used a particular thing to trigger it. And that's how, and that's how they could, A, know he was dead, and B, maybe make themselves beyond suspicion because they were almost the other victim. Oh no! Yeah. And then also dispose of the evidence by changing the salt, pouring the salt away. Because who keeps salt next to the sink with a loose top, you know? They definitely poured away the salt and replaced it. I'm convinced. Anyway. Simple and elegant, but anathema to a global corporation with supply chains designed for a maximum capacity in just-in-time manufacturing. But obviously they got over that distaste fast enough. In the span of a few years, Noble's gone from making manual labour ads for meagre profit to being the world leader in intelligence as a service. Even as he was making money hand over fist, he still kept in contact with a nobody like me. I moved to the city for my apprenticeship, he helped me put a down payment on my apartment. Then made up excuses as to why he couldn't help me move boxes. Pause. So this pretty much blows out of the water that theory that David and Morgan were a couple at any point. I don't believe that anymore. There is evidence, I mean, there's almost irrefutable evidence that David was at least gay, or rather, David at least bi. You know, bi or gay. He was seeing a man, and its context implies it was a romantic thing. So is that enough detail for you? Thoroughly convinced that he and I were in fact friends? I am. But Adonai, the favour that you owe him, what was it for? That's private, understand? I have zero interest in talking about it with you. Oh. Say you understand. I understand, Adonai. No. We will be arriving shortly. Shall I send word ahead? I reckon the favour was he found out that she was killing people, and he didn't care, but it was a favour. Just tell them that David's lawyer is here. But that would explain why she is not even slightly going to explain it's Serra. Noble Electronics Northeast HQ, sub-lobby A8. And that is as far as I got, and I decided now was a good breaking point. So, good news! After this, it's going to be live again! Isn't that cool? So apologies that we've had to go through this. Sorry, I'm just looking at poison and stuff. Sorry we've had to go through this faff. I will do my absolute bloody damnedest not to let this happen again. Thank you very much for watching. I'll be back with more of The Devil soon. And I will catch you later.